And I said, yes, I want to see it. We're walking up together. And I go, you must have gotten that ride cymbal a long time ago. And we go up and we look at it. He was playing a 21-inch rock ride. And he was able to ride and phrase on that and make it sound like the lightest, prettiest cymbal. But when he needed it to be heavier, it was there for him.
Hmm.
So, yep. You would never think that Louis Bellson would play a rock ride. Buddy Rich played a rock ride too
Yeah, yeah.
from time because they were looking for a certain pinginess to it that the lighter cymbals that he had in his collection didn't give him for that gig, and that's why he picked that
It's
cymbal.
amazing. I mean, I have this story. We did a lot of symbols with Dave, and actually, we had one which we shaved down from 4 kilos. It's a 22 inch. It used to be 4 kilos, and it maybe to 3.5, so still fairly heavy. And it was like, it's an interesting symbol. I like it, but kind of keep it on the side. And then there was one recording session, and it just opened up. It was born, suddenly this universe, coming out of it. I mean, I had to really push it, which I typically don't do, but I was just like, no way that there is such a hidden amount of things in a symbol, that, if you just press it, it's like, oh, that's its sound. That's how it sounds. That's why I was always like, you can't say that the symbol has a sound. A symbol is a universe of sound, and then it's up to the drummers to really dig in and kind of express the bits there, I would think.
Well, you can give general attributes to certain um, model designs and say this was designed to do this, like a medium ride you
Yeah,
can use for everything.
right.
Okay, so you can use an A Zildjian medium ride for rock and pump and punk and indie and singer songwriter, but you might not be able to use a Z custom for all of those.
Yeah.
Because it's more geared toward louder music. That's why it was designed. You
Mhm.
know, um, I've just I've been playing and making cymbals for a long, long time, so I just have a different um, outlook on what the instrument is versus someone that just plays the drums.
Yeah, obviously, indeed.
Yeah, so when I play cymbals, I don't play it as a player. I play it as a cymbal maker. Is this piece of metal vibrating the way that the customer asked me to make it do?
Mhm.
You know, um,
What's
so
the wildest request you've had from a customer? Is there?
oh geez, I'm trying to that I always get that question. What's the why? I can't off the top of my
Because
head, I
Dave's
can't.
struggling. He's enjoying our sessions with Dave. Our little modifying sessions are such that I never say what I want. I always say what I want him to do to the metal,
Mhm.
rather than, oh, I want it to sound like this and that. And he's very happy with this because he's kind of had it with people wanting it to sound a bit more like Elvin or a bit more like this
Well,
or that.
well, that's tough. That's like chasing a unicorn. So, you want it to sound like Elvin. If someone says, can you make me a cymbal like Elvin would play? Yes, because I've played Elvin's cymbal. So I'm familiar with the actual piece of metal
Yeah.
that he was using. So I can make something that's like that. Are you going to sound like Elvin Jones? Probably not. And why would you want to? Um, the thing with the modifications,
Mhm.
usually the conversation goes with me, and I can't speak for anybody else. And again, I'm coming through this from a totally different vantage point than the Dave Collingwoods and the Tim Roberts and the Mike Mongellos. I grew up at Zildjian.
Yeah.
Is that here's a question that I ask. What is the symbol not doing that you want it to do?
Mm.
Because I can hear what it's doing now, and I
Mhm.
understand what you don't like about it, but what do you want to do? And then can you get that piece of metal to do it now? Can you modify it to get it closer to what the
Mhm.
drummer wants? That's the
Uh,
question. Not you don't tell me what's there. Tell me what's missing that you want it to do.
mhm.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
interesting. But my perspective is always versatility. We typically do different rains with different techniques and kind of get the maximum different sounds possible.
And what are you looking for sound? That's that at the end of the day, what are you
Well,
looking
actually,
for it to sound like?
I'm looking for it to surprise me. I'm looking for something that I cannot predict in a way. You know, it's a kind of that's why I'm saying that it's not a sound; it's a universe of sound. I have a bit of a divinity complex there.
Okay.
So in terms of what a single piece of metal may or may not be. But yeah, but maybe we can. I don't know. In terms of the rock bits, I mean, I can always go on about really in-depth stuff and questions. Maybe Max has some
Yeah, are
knowledge.
we answering your questions, Max, or is Zach and I just talking?
No, I think this is very interesting. Again, this project is very early days. I don't really have that much many questions at the moment, so I think it's good that we're having, especially you two, are having this a back and forth conversation.
One thing that you can do with your analysis, if you get a bunch of 16-inch crashes, let's say, or 18-inch crashes, okay, you want to measure the sustain.
Okay.
When you hit a thin crash, you're going to have an immediate sound. And everybody thinks that a thin crash is brighter than a rock crash, which it's not. A lighter cymbal is always lower pitched than a heavier cymbal in the same diameter. Always. Okay? But when you excite a thinner cymbal, you hear the high frequencies first.
Mhm.
So, one of the things that you can measure is the length of sustain or how quickly it decays.
Okay.
So if you want something that speaks and shuts down, you want to go to a thinner cymbal, but if you're playing in a louder situation, you want to go to a larger diameter. Or you're going to overplay it and you're going to break the metal. That's really why I'm saying this.
Okay.
You don't want your instrument to fail. You don't want to ask it to do something that it can't do for you, or will only do for a short amount of time. But you can do an analysis on, the amount of sustain, how the bell shape affects the sound. You can go, well, here's a medium crash that weighs. I don't live in grams or kilograms. I live in pounds, ounces. I did it my whole adult life at Zildjian. So when someone says 4 kilograms, I know generally where that is, but I got to convert it
Yeah.
All
into
right.
pounds, ounces. So you could say, okay, well, here's a 16-inch medium crash that weighs about 2 pounds, 12 ounces. And then you go to a rock crash that weighs 3 pounds, 2 ounces, right? So what is that doing for me? And there's two different things that you have to look at now. It's two variables. Okay, so they should have the same curvature. The cup shape. Okay, so what's the volume difference between those two? And this one's slightly heavier, so this should sustain longer than this one. And does it do that? And through recording, you can measure that because you can measure how long you can hear the sound until you can't hear it anymore. It's really that simple.
Okay. Nice.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah.
Well, I would suggest you use the dB scale and say it's a 30 dB decay time or something a bit more.
Sure, sure.
But indeed, yes, that's one of the things. I mean, we were thinking about this measurement thing. In fact, exciting cymbals with pink noise and kind of measuring what it does in addition in terms of resonance. But actually, my idea was to necessarily try sinusoidal excitation and then look at how wide the spectrum becomes, because there's a lot of nonlinearities. You're expecting it to give you components, spectral components that are not there to start with, which makes it a kind of a 3D graph suddenly, because for each you get the whole spectrum. But we kind of did not really go in that direction with this project, just because there is so much interest in the actual application, the context, and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and still the science behind it is still warming up to it in a way.
I can guarantee that when you're done with this project, you're going to have more questions than answers,
Probably, yeah.
which is good.
Yeah.
People will say to me about, well, you must know everything about cymbal making. I'm like, no, I learn something every day. Are you a fan of Steve Gadd?
No.
But you know who Steve is, right? You know who Steve Gadd? No, okay. Look Steve Gadd up. and he's learning all the time. He's a famous drummer. Okay, he's played with everybody. He's been on countless recordings, but he's always learning. He's always saying to other drummers, younger drummers, I want to listen to you because maybe I'll learn something from you. Maybe I'll be able to take something from what I hear with you, and I'll be able to apply it to the music. Because think about this, okay? We played the drums, we play cymbals, and what we're doing is we're doing nonverbal expression. We're communicating non-verbally, and that's all that this is. So you find an instrument that speaks to you so you can communicate non-verbally with other musicians or even just to an audience.
Okay.
Yeah. I always find it fascinating when I play a cymbal and I'm like, oh, that's good. And then I play another one and I'm like, holy shit, that sounds amazing. And why does that one sound amazing to me? Because it vibrates me a certain way.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was to do an informative piece, it very is down, well, the information is from me and I have my own preferences. So it would be, I guess you're right, the certain vibration reacts differently to everyone, so it would be hard to maybe say, oh, I like this, but other people might not like it, so it's a very
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's associative, right? So if I see, let's say there is a symbol that I dislike when I first heard it, but then Steve Gadd walks in and he's like, "Let me show you, kid," and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's the best symbol in the world!" Just because I start to associate that sound with something which is more wholesome, which is more of an experience, right?
And the way that he might approach playing that piece of metal. If the 18-inch Zildjian cymbal that he played for many, many years, when you hear it alone, it's very, very noisy. It's very clangy. And then when Steve sits down and plays it, you're like, holy smokes. Because he's drawing out what he wants to hear from that. It's working within the context of the music. He's like, I'm going to color the music this way, and I'm going to use this piece of metal here, and it's gonna add to the music rather than subtract to it. And that's what you're doing with your instrument. You want to add. You want to add to the conversation that's already there with what you pick. Just like you have that pure alloy 18 with the holes and stuff. That you really, really like that cymbal, and I don't need to play it. I know what it sounds like, and I like that too. And I know the frequency range of that because that's a B12 alloy. So that doesn't have as many low frequencies in it just from the alloy alone. And now you remove that metal, now you get even more white noise with it. But I bet you that's one of your favorite cymbals.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It took a while to warm up to. I'm going to be honest, because I'd never had a trash cymbal before. But yeah, I tend to use it a lot when I can. It is one of my go-tos.
Actually, if I may shoot, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just trying because you said removing the lows, and we've done something this week. We kind of have it's a bottom hi-hat, and we've done deep square grooves like this in the first top half, and nothing on the bottom. And it actually removed. It was a bit of a confusing timbre previously. It had too much lows, kind of dissonant in a bad way. And this thing, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 grooves. And I don't know, well, they're kind of deep. You feel it well if you rub your finger across it. And it just removed those lows so beautifully. And the cymbal is much cleaner, works much better now.
That's interesting to me because when you remove metal, you actually lower the pitch of the cymbal.
Yeah, but that's what I'm asking for.
And it's contradictory that you said that, and I'm just like, maybe I'll buy a plane ticket and fly over, and you can show me in person.
Please come around. Please come.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that would. I mean, obviously, don't have the reference now.
Yeah, you'd have to record it before.
Yeah, exactly.
And then record it afterwards, and see, if what you're hearing.
Yeah.
With this computer here versus the recording that comes out, did it really do it?
No, because actually, I'm kind of thinking. I don't know if this way of thinking resonates, or you think it even has any sense. I sometimes try to discover which area of the symbol has something I do not like, and then try to attack that mode or that anti-node. And, potentially with hammers, with lading, with this kind of weirdness. And in fact, I'm about to try things with it's permanent, quick drying stamp ink.
Okay.
I've discovered that it sticks really well to the symbol. And in fact, we have this new idea now, and Dave is all over. We'll see if it happens because we have the unconventional computing research here, and they're growing mushrooms. So I'm thinking about, some growth, biological growth, maybe moss or shrooms that could, settle onto the symbol, maybe in these deep grooves to get the kind of, something coming out of it, a bit of.
It would dampen it.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
add something, it's gonna dampen some stuff. One of the things that I was taught just in general, for the years that I worked for Zildjian is you want to make symbols that are in balance. You don't want any weird overtones or undertones that are predominant.
Mm-hmm.
You want everything to play nicely together. We talk about dark and trashy and dirty, and that's the K Zildjian sound. But if you really listen to those symbols that were used for those recordings, there was more prettiness to that symbol with all of that other stuff playing a supporting role to the primary role of the symbol, which could be the timekeeping. So you don't want the dark and dirty and spreadiness of the symbol to overtake the timekeeping of what that piece of metal is supposed to do. And that's a common theme about drummers that would use those types of symbols. So those other sounds are not to overtake the primary role of this instrument, which is to keep time so the rest of the band knows where everything is. So
how about the hybrid between a cymbal and a cowbell?
As far as making a cowbell out of cymbal alloy,
or the other way around, or any way of hybrid,
or just making a new geometry with it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the sound is funny as well. Cowbell always has this. For me, it's always a Spike Jones thing and a kind of an comical stuff, which I love. But in a way, because just thinking about it's also just a piece of metal, right? More or less. So how do the two? Did you build any cowbells? I mean, I guess there is.
Not out of cymbal metal, but we did do cowbells.
What's the difference in metal? What metal is used? I don't.
It's just steel. And you would powder coat it or paint it or whatever, and you're looking for that real kind of staccato, and depending on the size of the cowbell, do you get a short sound? Do you get a longer sound? Can you make cowbells out of cymbal metal? Yes, but the hardness is different.
Yeah.
So you would most likely get a softer sound. Like I made tambourine jingles out of cymbal metal, and it was very soft sounding or low pitched compared to the chrome plated steel that and I know there's brass jingles too for a certain sound, but the primary metal used for tambourines is chrome plated steel, so you get a brightness.
And how about crowtails? Did you make crowtails in the
Oh boy, did I make crowtails. I know all about crowtails. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just a tuned, crotale just means tuned cymbal in Greek.
Yeah.
So you're getting that alloy to vibrate at a frequency, at a note. That's all it is.
Yeah, a clean timbre. So no shaping, it's just a flat piece. It's typically thicker, I would imagine.
But it has a bell. It has a it's different than a flat disc.
All right. Yeah.
Yep. And you get it to the diameter and the thickness. So you got to get it to the note. If you want C8, you gotta make it small.
Yeah.
If you want C6, it's got to be bigger. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, I know more about crotales than I'd like to admit.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
I worked on crotales at Zildjian for a good 10 years. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Because they're not really easy to get at. And if we have a really amazing secondhand market here in UK, because there was I think there was decades of amateurs buying professional instruments.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably similar in the US, I would imagine. And at some point, all these people just get rid of it. And if they're well off, they don't even care what it sells for.
Right, right.
You can get deals like unimaginable. But crotals, never. I've never seen any. I really want to get my hands on some, but
one of the things that we worked at is that was when you would use that particular alloy, sometimes when you would tune it to the note and you'd get it to the note, there would be a flutter, either a slow flutter or an oscillation that was not pleasing to the player. So we worked toward getting rid of that, so it was more of a pure tone. And then some of the older orchestral players complained that they didn't sound like crotals because we got rid of the thing that some of the orchestral players are complaining about, because when they would play it in pairs or play chords or whatever, that's where you would get the tension with the vibrations, because you'd have some weird oscillations. You'd have a slow one with the fast one, and it would sound out of tune. So we were trying to get rid of that.
How do you tame it? How do you get rid of the?
You want to make sure that when you're making a crotal that there's no voids in the metal, where it's inside of it, because if there's any cavities, that will affect how the metal vibrates.
Uniformity is crucial of the material.
Yep.
Yeah. And I imagine if it's molded wrong or something went wrong, you can't really fix it, right? It has to be.
You can't fix it. Yep.
Yeah, it has to be.
But we came up with some techniques. It was pretty ingenious. We borrowed from some other industries, and we came out with a process to make a pretty pure sounding high and low octave of crotals. But the way that it needed to be priced, because there was an off-site operation that needed to be done that was fairly expensive. So it drove the price up of the crotals.
Right.
So.
But you can't really make them from blanks. The blanks are too thin, right? The ones that you can get.
No, you're gonna either sand cast them or have a dedicated mold for the notes. Yep.
And does the math work out? The thickness, the weight, and the diameter, or it has to be tuned by hand, I imagine?
It's tuned by hand. You can. There are drawings for crotales. You machine it to that point, but then you have to play it.
Yeah.
And then you have to fine tune it. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
It's like when you tune a piano. Like, oh, I'm going to do this, and then he's got a ding ding ding, and he's got to tighten this string a little bit more so it plays well.
Yeah. Exciting stuff.
Yeah. Are you bored yet, Max?
No, no, I'm not.
Is this fascinating?
No, I'm just checking if it's still recording.
Do you have any other questions? I mean, I only know what I know from doing it. The mechanical engineering degree just confirms that Zildjian's been doing it right, or the Turkish, or the Independents, or Pisces has been doing it. They've been doing it correctly, because this is confirmed.
Definitely. But yeah, I mean, I've sort of run out of questions. As I said, this is early days, so I only have a limited amount. But I'd love to do another meeting maybe in the next year.
Okay.
That's fine with you.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this is helpful, because you can go off on a tangent on stuff. Obviously, it happens every time. You can't start to have a conversation and not tangent off into other things. There's not hard fast truths with cymbals. There's generalizations.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think I'm very lucky to have Zach as my supervisor for this.
Yeah, about that one.
So what do you play for cymbals, Zach?
Well, actually, I'm a bit of a freak, become most recently. I probably have about 70, 80 rides hanging around in different countries. Because I seem to feel that, having a separate drum kit requires a separate shed as well. It's not like, because the room is so important. And actually, for me, the point is versatility. I mean, as far as the sticks go, I use the thickest and the thinnest, and in terms of cymbals, everything pretty much. And then there is a certain, sense of preference, and I love certain things and don't love the others. And when I don't love a certain cymbal, I take it to Dave's, and then we attack it with the lathe and hammers and wild ideas. But indeed, for me, it is, as I mentioned, it is really crucial that it it feels like a living organism more than like, okay, you are my slave and I need slaves that perform my instructions. I'm more into like, okay, I want to be fascinated, inspired, and I frequently am. And, I mean, even to the extent that, playing at night in a condo, it's probably my favorite, arena for playing cymbals. Because in a band setting or in a, rehearsal space, when you actually smash those things, I think they're much less beautiful, so to speak. So, and it's always this journey to find unheard sounds and really exciting things. And the last one we did with Dave on Saturday, I call it the Caramba ride.
Okay.
Because I went there and it rested for a month. In fact, actually, I wanted to ask something about, because I had this funny thing. I don't want to try pulling it out now, but it's a mod, and we have a kind of two sections on the cymbal. So the tapered bit, towards the edge, the usual thing, but it's a fairly immediate drop in thickness. And I liked it, but I didn't quite like it. So I tacked it with a hammer and I did a ring of hammering, and it started to get there, and I did more, and it was very small, like light hammering, but kind of destructive with a sharp thing. They weren't very beautiful. And I kept doing it, and I was like, okay, getting there, and I really got to a great sound. And then a week later, it was gone. And then I hammered a bit more along that ring, and I was starting to get it back again. So and then Dave told me, yeah, typically you want to over hammer it, and then it will settle back into where it's supposed to be. But it kind of relates to these things, whether it's alive or not. And you said something about it being settled, as well. And I'm kind of thinking, maybe I should hammer my cymbals before recording sessions to get them to the exact sound I want them at the stage. Just like I think these days that cleaning, the best tool for cleaning cymbal is the lathe. So I want to clean a cymbal, just take it to Dave, and he kind of does the magic, and it opens up and it's beautiful. So I have kind of developing this relation to, fresh off the press, so to speak. I hope this obsession lasts forever, but if not, I'll probably find another one. So.
Well, I've been obsessed with it for a long, long time, and I don't see it changing.
Don't see it, yeah,
So, yeah. So, is the cymbal alive? It's not technically an organism, but the metal changes. It continues to change over time, slowly, because the metal is getting harder and harder as it continues to age.
But what is it chemically? I mean, it's just the molecules compress more, or I mean, there is no vapor to evaporate, I would imagine, in terms of it's just the structure of the.
It's the crystal structure of the alloy. Yep.
The alloy
again, it wants to get, which is kind of strange. It wants to get back to its base elements, which are two soft metals, and they were alloyed together to make it stronger. When they were originally used for knife blades and swords and stuff and cutting tools, and then they got into irons and steels and stuff like that. But brand new cymbals are soft and older cymbals are harder, and that's why it's easier to play an older cymbal. When you did some hammering, you compressed the metal and you got it to a certain sound, and then over time, a couple days, a week, a month, you put stress into the metal, and the metal stress relieved itself.
Yeah. So, and this heat treatment, did you
don't do it after especially in 80/20 bronze. Don't do it after the cymbal's been made. It'll break
easier. Yeah. But what does it do to the sound? Why is it so inviting? Why do people actually end up doing
it? It does it because it makes the cymbal sound older. It will have a more sustained, longer resonance. But what happens is, in the 80/20 bronze, there's tin-rich areas. So the tin doesn't fully go into solution. It's not like homogenized milk. and you
Mhm.
can melt that tin at certain temperatures. When you get up to 300 plus degrees Fahrenheit, the
Mhm.
tin-rich areas in the grain boundaries, it will melt. So as you're playing the cymbal, you're like, wow, this sounds great, and it's loading and unloading as you're playing it, and then
Mhm.
it cracks.
Mm. Yeah.
Don't stick your cymbal in, especially an 80-20 bronze cymbal. Don't put it in the oven.
And deep
You
freeze?
can do some low temperature annealing, but I really let the cymbal age on its own. Don't help it.
And freezing it, would that do something?
Nothing. We did it at Zildjian. We did cryogenic freezing. We
Oh
took
yeah?
bad sounding cymbals and thinking that we were going to realign the atoms like they were doing with knife blades. It was big on knife blades to keep an edge sharper.
Oh.
And we said, all right, we're going to take some cymbals that don't sound so great. We're going to cryogenically freeze them, and they're going to sound better. And a bad cymbal is a bad sounding cymbal, no matter what you do to it.
Mm.
Yep.
That sounds
So,
Interesting.
yeah, we did all kinds of stuff like this at Zildjian. It was fun too.
Give us more. Give us more. What other unsuccessful experiments?
I did a lot of heating experiments. Um, you can if you're looking at like a B8 alloy, you want to anneal that after the cymbal's made, and then that'll stress relieve quicker
Mhm.
because of the it's not a two-phase alloy, it's a single-phase alloy, so you can afford to do that. Um, so you can either let the cymbal sit around after it's been made for, you can let it sit around for 2 weeks, then it will stress relieve on its own, or you could speed it up through heating. You don't want to do a lot of post annealing to 80-20 bronze.
Mhm.
It doesn't end up pretty. You think it does. So
And
it's
how?
just very, very interesting the different types of alloys. Like nickel silver, if you use nickel silver, it'll stress relieve on its own almost immediately. I remember making some nickel silver cymbals, and I'm like, all right, this is going to sound good in a couple days. I came back half an hour later, it was ringing like crazy. I was like, whoa, I didn't know. There's no literature when it comes to cymbals and
Yeah.
cymbal alloys because it's all trial and error and what
Right.
sound did we get to. So there's not a lot that's written down.
But it's really interesting because there's not many alloys. I mean, not many different chemical components that go into it. So you said nickel silver.
Mhm.
Would that be expensive, or is that a cheaper variant, or
There's no silver in it. It's the color of the alloy. So you have it's nickel silver to me is part of the brass family. So you have copper and zinc and nickel. So you can have
Mhm.
6% nickel, you can have 12% nickel or a little bit higher.
Mhm.
And you get a pretty sound, but it doesn't sustain as long as 80-20 bronze.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, 20% tin bronze, it's the magic formula for me. It's just that's the pretty acceptable sound, and you can manipulate it 6 ways to Sunday and get a new sound, and it's awesome to work with.
Hmm.
Yep.
Definitely beautiful.
Yeah. So now you're learning more about symbols than you ever wanted to, Max.
nice.
I think he wanted to. I think he secretly, actually, it was revealed. He said that he wants to do a simple project, and all my colleagues were like, "Well, you have to talk to Zach about that one." I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I did a report, and so I went back to school at nighttime while raising a family to get my degree.
Hmm.
And I had a materials teacher, and he says, "All right, we're gonna, mostly you learn about steels and stuff like that." And he says, at the end of the semester, write a project on something that you like. So I said, well, I'm going to do it about symbols, and I was explaining the process at Zildjian. I said, we anneal the metal, and then we put a cup in it, and then we re-anneal the metal, and then we quench it, and we go from a very brittle state to a very, very ductile state. And he goes, no, you don't. And I didn't argue with him. I'm like, he's the professor, right? I'm the student. So I said, I'm going to do my project on symbols, and I brought in each step.
All
And I
right.
took a rolled blank and I dropped it on the floor and it cracked like glass. And I took
Hmm.
one that had been quenched and I dropped it on the floor and it didn't do anything. And then I bent it in half. And he went, oh, I didn't know it was going to do that. Why didn't you tell me, 8 weeks ago? I said, I'm not going to argue with you. You know, you have your PhD in materials, and I'm just a mechanical engineering student. So, but I want here's how we make symbols at Zildjian. And he was like, wow, this is really cool. And he was supposed to, he says, I want to copy your report and keep it because this contradicts what I thought was going to happen. Because it's supposed to give you your paperwork back with a grade on it and everything. So,
Right. Yeah.
so
That's a compliment.
yeah.
And then how about I wonder because last year I went to the Bosphorus factory and they were very secretive about many things as they do. But
I wave it away.
yeah. But in any case, they were on about. I was like, yeah, but why is Black Pearl is probably my favorite of their line. It's like, yeah, but why is it so much more expensive? And then they said, well, actually, it goes
black.
uh, because it goes multiple times between the oven and the roll press.
They all do.
They all do, yeah.
Depending on the thickness, you have to heat it. You roll it. You have to heat it again. Because if you just try to keep rolling it, it'll break because
Right.
of the amount of tin that's in there.
Right.
The black pearl finish, it has to do with how they, annealed it and quenched it and what the temperatures are and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, the funny thing is that the older black pearls are actually black, and the new ones that I've seen last
More
time,
brown.
they're more brown. Yeah,
More
yeah.
brown. Yeah.
Why do you
Because
think that?
it's an oxide layer. It has to do with temperatures, time
Right.
of temperature and quenching. Yep.
And in terms of accelerating the oxidation, did you ever kind of do the fake patina thing, or
I do it. Yeah, I do it all the time.
yeah. Any
And
secrets that you don't want to reveal?
no, I mean there's a lot of different ways to do it. It's chemical. Everything's
It's
chemical.
chemical, yeah.
Even when it does it naturally to a
Mhm.
symbol, just from you touching it, it's a chemical reaction with the atmosphere. And you can either just let it happen over time on its own, or you can speed it up. So I have a process here. I developed the Karope line for Zildjian, and I found a way to speed up that oxide
All right.
development. It's chemical. Everything's chemical.
Is it the secret?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good to have
But
some.
if you, I mean, just Google how can I oxidize my symbol?
Actually, yes.
How do I develop patina? How do you think that I figured it out? I went and I researched it. It's not that hard.
Well, actually, I've been on the lookout for catalysts for oxidation of bronze, and I've got a list of things to try, different powders, and see how far it goes. And then it showed me the black liquid, the ferrite oxide,
Mm-hmm.
and supposedly it ate a splash cymbal overnight once. The cymbal completely disappeared in the bath of this thing.
Oh wow, yeah.
So yes,
some people they'll dunk it. I don't do it that way. So what does the patina do to a symbol? If it just happens over 30 years, it's just a layer. It's like a protective layer, and it tends to dampen the symbol. It's almost like you're putting a piece of tape on it. So sometimes it helps with a symbol that has some wonky overtones. You can dampen those overtones. But most of it's a finish. A lot of drummers, when you go into a shop, you see the symbol before you play it, and you gravitate it towards some stuff like, wow, that looks cool. I wonder what it sounds like, rather than, I know exactly what that's going to sound like, and I dismiss what it looks like. You go and look at the things that are non-traditional first, and then you see what it sounds like. But everything that we would do at Zildjian and everything that I do here is rooted in sound. So I just don't do a finish for the sake of doing a finish because it looks cool. I do it because it's going to get to a sound for a drummer.
Yeah.
Looking at those like sound color symbols.
Yeah, the Peisty color sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are dampened because those have a layer of I don't want to sound disrespectful. They're painted.
Are they? Yeah. I was always wondering how they actually get that color.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was adding a layer of something I didn't.
It was very innovative when the color sounds came out. It was like, whoa,
Yeah.
what's that? So kudos. Peisty did a lot of really innovative things, especially in the 1980s, which was very, very cool. One of the things, like the brilliant finish that Zildjian developed, making the cymbal shinier, Originally, they just wanted to make, a really reflective looking symbol, and they polished it, like jewelry. And what that does is it gives a certain surface hardening because you're heating up the metal. It's almost like doing another low temperature annealing step to it.
Mm.
So you would it's almost like you were aging the symbol a little bit premature through the buffing process, through the friction of the rouge and the cotton buffing wheels.
Mm. I
Yeah.
actually did some buffing myself, and I wasn't happy with the result at some point. And then I cleaned it with the salty vinegar solution, and it came back.
Okay. Well, one of the things too, anytime you do something to a symbol, like you hammer it, or you polish it, or you put a patina finish on it, everything tightens up, and you got
Mhm.
to let it kind of relax and really reveal itself. So when I make a symbol for somebody, I'll send them a picture, but they won't get it for like a week because it's got to sit.
Mm.
Again, you don't want to. Most drummers won't play a cymbal that's brand new off of a lathe because it's soft and it
Mhm.
just doesn't give you the sustain that you're
Mhm.
looking
Yeah.
for in a cymbal. Yeah, it's very dull sounding.
Yeah, it definitely gets much more rich. We had
Over
the
time,
symbol. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
first 48 hours is the biggest change.
48. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yep. So, well, I'd love to continue to speak with you, but
You
I have a business to run and I got to make some symbols.
excellent. Thank you so much.
Of course. And if you have any more questions, you have my number, and you as well, Zach. You can get my number from Max if you ever have any questions or want to ask anything. But I mean, you have David right
Well,
there.
we welcome you to Bristol. You kind of mentioned the flight to Bristol. That'd be nice.
I've been to London and stuff several times over the years for different Zildjian events. I love England. Just need to have a reason to come over. The UK drum show keeps inviting me, and it's just not economically, sound for me to come over yet and display at the UK drum show.
No,
So I'm hoping in the future I'll be able to do that. It's a whole different logistics to bring cymbals over. How do I sell them? Do I go through a dealer or a distributor? Or what's
Mm.
you got exchange rates and stuff like that. So it can be challenging to
Yeah.
kind of navigate that. So, but I will probably, Royal Cymbals will probably display at the UK Drum Show sooner than not,
Excellent.
in the coming years. So come on out and say hi, and you can meet me in person and play what I'm making. And are you guys familiar with another cymbal maker who's not doing it too much anymore? Nicky Moon. Are you familiar with him at all? No.
Huh?
Yeah, he taught a lot of the independents, and he helped me when I started on my own. He lent me an anvil and gave me some blanks, and I went to his house to pick up an order of blanks one time. He goes, "Do you want to make a symbol?" I said, "Sure." And we made a symbol. And he goes, "Wow, it sounds like a Zildjian." And I'm like, I mean, that's the foundation in what I do because I worked there for so long. I mean, I I made Zildjian cymbals for 32 years, so I would be surprised if it didn't have kind of a sound that leaned toward that. So, but I just kind of chuckled when he said that. I'm like, well, yeah, I would hope so. Anyway, thank you guys. I hope I was helpful,
Very nice.
Max. And if you have any questions, you can text me anytime. I'll answer as soon as I can.
Okay, will do. Thank you very much.
All right, you guys have a great evening, and talk to you again soon.
Yeah, sure thing.
Thank you so much, Paul.
All right, bye bye.
Okay,
Nice day. Cheers.
You too.
nice.
Decent.
Cool. Let me just-
Oh, there you go. Now I have to write it up a bit.